Hello and welcome to Cinema Science. Here we embrace the science in movies that the creators actually got right, or at least mostly right. The internet may love to rip things to pieces, but we here at Cinema Science are firm believers in positive affirmation. Our mission is to find these science gems and explain them in terms that everyone can understand. That's right, everyone. Degree or math proficiency not required. We're going to use examples of excellent movie science as a hopefully entertaining educational tool, all without a single equation appearing on the screen. So, for this episode, we're focusing on the Avengers, the biggest movie of 2012, if not of all time. If you haven't heard of or seen this movie, you were either a time traveler or my grandmother. If so, you should go see this movie. But for the uninitiated, The Avengers is a movie about a team of superheroes who don't really get along, fighting aliens from another dimension led by the Norse god of mischief. Yeah, it sounds really crazy on paper, but it actually kind of works out. So obviously all of that stuff is not real science, but there are examples of developing real-world technology snuck in there among the explosions and the magic. So we're talking about this major spy agency, S.H.I.E.L.D's helicarrier with invisibility cloak. Unfortunately, we do not have helicarrier technology, and we probably won't ever, but is a good chance we can pull off those invisibility cloaks in, the next couple decades or so. Here is the Cinema Science recreation so we do not get sued. You can find the actual scene somewhere on YouTube or just rewatch the entire movie legally on Netflix. But let's first talk about how light works, and then we'll look at current invisibility technologies. So, as you may or may not know, light is made up of particles called photons that act as both a particle and a wave. The important part of this is that those photons must enter your eye in order for you to see anything. Photons bounce off objects like a lamp or a wall or a bookshelf and then bounce back into your eye so you can see the lamp, the wall, and the bookshelf. So, the goal of invisibility cloaks can be split into two categories. Have the photons never reflect back into your eyes at all, this is called refraction, or two, have the photons bounce back a false image. So there are four main methods pursuing invisibility right now in science labs everywhere. So mirrors. Mirrors can be arranged on an object in such a way that it refracts or bounces the light around said object. The downside is that it only works in one direction. Stepping around the mirrors reveals that they're there. So, for those Star Wars fans in the audience, this is how they made Luke's speeder look like it was hovering in A New Hope. Limits notwithstanding, this technology can be used to shield satellites and other near-Earth orbiting objects around Earth, which is actually super creepy when we think about it. So, another technology that they're currently pursuing is called metamaterials. These are man-made materials that bend light around an object like water on the stone. These things are really cool because they make the molecules of the object, of the metamaterial, so close together that it pretty much guides the photon on its own little path. So this refraction technique is still very much in its infancy, so it's currently only available in very, very small quantities and probably only in research labs. So, but it's still pretty awesome, and it's actually probably the most effective at making stuff invisible. Now, a less effective technique is the mirage technique. Basically, consists of making carbon nanotubes super hot so it recreates the mirage effect in deserts or the shimmering heat effect you see off on a highway on a really hot summer day. So this is not super effective for shielding people because it's so incredibly hot. It's just physically uncomfortable or actively dangerous for them. So, the last technique, and this is probably the one that we'll see the most often in the next 20 years or so, is cameras. So basically what happens is that tiny cameras collect images behind an object, and that then it projects those images on a projection screen in front of the object, or the projection screen could also be a cloak that you're wearing. There's been some successful prototypes of this. There's images of it on the internet. We probably have links down in the whatever, but this projection screen technology is not really at the technology level it needs to be in order to work. So it can only work in dim light or indoors because sunlight, what it will do, or any just strong light period, it washes out the projection screen, so it makes it look pretty fake. So screens are going to have to be brighter and more reactive in order to work outside and in any just bright light period. So, as far as we can tell, this is the method that the Avengers used. It doesn't say so in the movie, and we didn't ask Joss Whedon, but this is probably the logical answer. Let's take a quick look at how practical each of these technologies are. So, mirrors are cost-effective, and they're practical implementation, and you can do them right now. So that's pretty great, although kind of limited and directional. in only directional invisibility. Metamaterials are totally awesome, they're super effective, they are also super expensive. You get what you pay for with metamaterials. So it's probably going to see some use, but only people with massive amounts of money to fund the research. It's still very much in its infancy. Mirages probably won't happen ever because you put a lot of effort into making them, and then you just don't get a lot of effectiveness. You get the mirage effect, but it's super high. You can't really hide anything with it very well, and you can't hide people at all. Camera-based invisibility cloaks are in the semi-working prototype stage. We will probably see them in use within the next 20 years. I hope you learned a little bit of something interesting, or at least had a good time, and maybe if you stick with us, you become a little bit less pessimistic about movies and science in movies. Next time we'll be talking about Pacific Rim. I love this movie so much, you guys. I am so excited about discussing Pacific Rim with you guys. But get excited for the real science involved in giant robots fighting gargantuan interdimensional monsters. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you're into it. Hope to see you next week.